Beverly Hills here in Los Angeles. And just the name Beverly Hills, we think of fancy homes. As you saw as I opened this video, you think of glamour, you think of movie stars, you think of peaceful surroundings and serenity and living the good life and a place where nothing can possibly go wrong in life. Well, in the case of Beverly Hills, we have something behind me here called the Bermuda Triangle. And you can see this home here sits right on the corner of North Linden and Whittier. And it begins the point of it is the point of the what they call the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills. And it's a place where a lot of bad things have happened. You've had death there, you've had murder, attempted murders, you've had crashes, plane crashes. It's an unbelievable area, and it has the reputation of being a real badass place. Let's take a look at it over here. See how lovely and serene, big beautiful home right there on the point. We have Whittier coming up right here, and then we have Linden right there. Let's talk about a very famous plane crash that occurred here in 1946. I don't think anybody that you don't even have to know a lot about aviation history and reclusive billionaires to know the name Howard Hughes. He was one of the pioneers of the aviation industry. He was also one of the pioneers of the movie industry. We'll let this truck go by here. He was a pioneer in many ways. He loved to dabble in movies. He liked to hang around movie stars. He liked the whole process, but he was particularly fascinated with aviation. And he was the founder of TWA, Trans World Airlines. And to this day, the Howard Hughes Corporation lives on. Huge property holdings in Las Vegas in particular. There's even the Howard Hughes Drive over there, but definitely a big name in Los Angeles aviation and movie history. A legend. I have my own story about Howard Hughes that I've told before. I won't tell it again. But the thing that I want to talk about today, very on Beverly Hills with the noise here today, is in 1946, Howard Hughes was piloting a plane. And well, he was really one of the first incidents of the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills. He was piloting a plane and he crashed through a row of homes here on Whittier Street. And I'll show you the house where his plane came to a stop. It was the first of many incidents that happened here on what's called the Beverly Hills Bermuda Triangle. Let's go down and look at that home. As we're walking down here, it's hard to imagine a more serene area, and then to have a plane come down and crash, smash into a row of homes here on Whittier. It's almost unbelievable. And I bet if you were to ask the average person that lives in Beverly Hills here, they would have no idea of that fabled history that occurred. They'd also have no idea of the place of which they live here on the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills has been the scene of so much tragedy, death, and destruction. On that fateful day in 1946, as Howard Hughes fought for control of his airplane, and he was one that was renowned for building experimental aircraft. He was also renowned for his courage. Also renowned for his courage that he would fly basically anything, especially if he engineered it or was involved in design. The golden age of aviation. After careening down the street here and smashing into multiple houses, 808 North Whittier, this home right here is where what was left of Howard Hughes' plane came to a stop. Right here. Can't even imagine it today. Continuing up the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills, this is Whittier here, and Whittier and Linden down there. Is we just came up this street from where the Howard Hughes crash scene was. We have another very famous incident that occurred here that gave birth to a very legendary rock and roll song written by Jan and Dean called Dead Man's Curve. And it was one of the times that Jan of Jan and Dean almost lost his life. The legend goes, and I'm looking at sunset right here, the legend goes that on an evening in 1963, he was out in his Corvette. And as he came up to a light over on Hollywood and Vine, he was challenged by a Jaguar that pulled up next to him. And they took off racing through the streets and ended up here in Beverly Hills. Well, unfortunately, as you can see up here on Sunset, it's almost a 90-degree turn coming down this hill and taking this at great speed. He almost lost control of his Corvette, and luckily he was able to regain control, but it was had such a mental impact on him, almost losing his life on this curve, that he went ahead and penned the song Dead Man's Curve. Now, several years later, he almost did die when, they say, in the same particular area on the street, he came roaring around Sunset here, and there was a parked truck here, and he slammed into the back of the parked truck. Luckily, he lived. Kev, what do you think? We've had the crash site Howard Hughes. Everybody heard of Howard Hughes, but nobody really ever heard that he crashed a plane in Beverly Hills here in the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills. Now, what do you think about the Jan and Dean curve up here? Do you see how it'd be possible that two people are racing around this corner at very high speed?
Yeah.
It really is about a 90-degree curve there.
It is.
Would almost...
that's crazy.
Almost off themselves, and then several years later coming back and almost really killing himself, slamming into a truck. You never knew you lived in such a cool town, did you, with all this history?
It's amazing.
You've heard the song Dead Man's Curve, right?
Yeah.
And all that. I mean, it's one of the most iconic songs of the early to mid 60s. So Kev, I give you Dead Man's Curve, huh?
Wow.
Right there. So
That is
all right.
awesome.
Now let's go check out a murder scene.
Okay.
Kev, here's the next one. We're still on Whittier, and believe it or not, in 2010, last name, her name was Chasen. She was a publicity agent. She was also Michael Douglas's agent, and she was very renowned for help organizing the Academy Awards and the ceremonies and things like that. She was very well regarded, very important person here in Hollywood. Well, she was coming down here on Sunset Boulevard, from driving down Sunset past Dead Man's Curve. She stopped here at the light on Whittier, and a random felon had came up and robbed her at gunpoint and shot her to death right here in her car. While she was in the process of dying, she hit the accelerator pedal and smashed into the lights over here and took out these lights, thus showing you more of the tragedy of the Bermuda Triangle of Whittier and Linden and this whole area in Beverly Hills. Pretty remarkable that it concentrated in here so much mayhem and death. So that was a very tragic shooting in November of 2010. She did die. Thus also showing that some bad stuff can happen in Beverly Hills too, and you never know who's out there. And as you theorize, it may have been late at night and stopped at the light, and somebody comes up and just puts a heater in your face, and that's it. So more tragedy here on the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills. We got one more big time stop down here. We're going to turn around and go down here to Linden. Okay. All right, are you impressed?
Yeah, I'm very impressed.
You scared? To be
That's creepy. I wouldn't mind it at night.
Yeah, there we go. No matter where you are, you never know.
Even in Beverly Hills.
When your number's up, which is very apropos for the next guy we're going to talk about. Last stop on our Murder and Mayhem for October of 2020, Halloween time. Our theme of death and mayhem. We're here on Linden at 801 North Linden Drive in the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills. And this rather simple looking home here, well, it was the home for the famous mobster Bugsy Siegel right here in Beverly Hills. And in June of 1947, as he was reading the paper in his back room here at the small compound here, somebody approached the home with an M1 rifle and fired 2 shots through the window into his head. There are some theories the murder was never solved, but one of the theories was he so overran budget getting the Flamingo in Las Vegas off the ground that he tore through so much of the Jewish mob's money and the Italian mob's money that they wanted him out of the picture because he had proved himself incapable of making a go of a new casino in Las Vegas. There it is, 801 North Linden, Bugsy Siegel death home. What a fascinating place, huh? The Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills. And I want to thank you guys for being along as I say goodbye outside of the mobster Bugsy Siegel's home here in Beverly Hills. That there's a lot of history that probably your average Los Angelean doesn't even know or isn't even aware of. I always kind of amuse myself wondering if people that have purchased these homes in the neighborhood really know some of the history of the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills. Would they even care? I don't know, but it sure makes fascinating YouTube videos for us. Murder, mayhem, destruction here in the Bermuda Triangle of Beverly Hills. Appreciate you being along today. Thumbs up or appreciated. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, share it out to others. They may enjoy it too. Thanks everyone.